Hey, Truth Seekers, welcome back. Zach here. Today's March 6th, 2016, a Sunday. The major news headline is that Nancy Reagan, former First Lady to the 40th President Ronald Reagan, has passed away of heart failure. What I want to show you in this video is how she has passed away by the numbers, as her husband did June 5th, 2004. I suspect that both of their deaths are ritual sacrifices by the numbers as the Freemasons and Zionist Jews operate. If you are not aware, this nation we live in is a controlled nation, a rigged nation, and it is controlled by satanic powers known as Freemasons and Zionist Jews. In the 66th book of the Bible, Revelation, it says the false Jews will rule in the end times, and they are known as the synagogue of Satan. Nancy Reagan has passed away on the 66th day of the year, and we'll talk more about the significance of that in a moment. Notice also she has passed away on 3/6, 36 years after her husband was elected as the 40th President of the United States. I'm going to reveal a lot of information in this video, things most people have no idea of. Before we do that, though, I just want to watch the mainstream coverage and witness how the mainstream media presents these tyrants as reasonable people, as respectable people. They are not. They are sellouts to humanity. They work for satanic entities, and that is why they are sacrificed by satanic numbers. So we'll watch this 5-minute news clip, then we'll break it all down.
Very sad moment for all of us. We are very sad to report breaking news right now. Nancy Reagan, the former First Lady of the United States, has passed away. Very sad moment for all of us, especially those of us who covered Nancy Reagan so many of those years, those wonderful years when her husband was President of the United States. Nancy Reagan has passed away at the age of 94. We're going to have extensive coverage of Mrs. Reagan, beginning with a look back at her remarkable years.
Ronnie and Nancy, it was truly an American love story.
I can't imagine marriage being any other way but the way that Ronnie's and mine was. And I guess that's unusual.
A little bit of a miracle too, right? Something in the gods brought you together.
Fortunately.
A relationship not based on politics or power, but simply admiration and affection.
Together we're going a long way.
Born Anne Frances Robbins in New York City, she lived and grew up in Chicago, known by the nickname Nancy. As an adult, she headed west to Hollywood to become an actress.
She signed with MGM. She became part of that family.
At first, Nancy Davis was busy, but in 1949, she found her name on a list of suspected communist sympathizers in danger of being blacklisted from the business. The person on the list turned out to be another actress with the same name, but Nancy wanted reassurance. She turned to a friend for help, who set up a meeting with the president of the Screen Actors Guild, a dashing leading man named Ronald Reagan. And thus began one of Hollywood's and Washington's most enduring romances. In fact, one of her last screen appearances was playing opposite her future husband in a movie called Hellcats of the Navy. Soon after, they wed. They raised a family, including their children Patty and Ron Jr., and her husband's 2 children, Maureen and Michael, from his previous marriage to Jane Wyman. In 1966, Ronald Reagan began a second career as a full-time politician and was elected governor of the nation's largest state, California. Nancy was always at his side, and always gazing at him with that loving stare.
It was for real. That wasn't an actress. The adoration that they had for each other.
Congratulations, sir.
That I don't remember thinking anything except that, my gosh, here he is, and he's president.
My Ronnie.
My Ronnie.
After her husband's presidential inauguration, Nancy Reagan's signature was appearing in designer gowns, especially red ones. She also redecorated the White House, both moves drawing heavy criticism. But she had her own special grit, especially after an assassin's bullet struck her husband. She never left the hospital. Few knew then how close the president came to dying, just a couple of months into his first term.
Yes.
Touch and go.
Yes, it was. I almost lost him.
She also battled breast cancer and survived. Through it all, she had many admirers, and some critics too. Chief among them her husband's former chief of staff, Ronald Reagan, who wrote a blistering book about her, including the fact that she sometimes consulted an astrologer.
He's chosen to attack my wife, and I don't look kindly upon that at all.
She also used her influence to launch an anti-drug program, which was reduced to a simple phrase. When a young girl asked for advice and the First Lady said simply, "Just say no."
I didn't mean that that was the whole answer, obviously, but it did serve a purpose.
After she and her husband left Washington, she needed her stamina more than ever after Ronald Reagan was diagnosed with Alzheimer's.
It's sad to see somebody you love and been married for so long, and you can't share memories. That's the sad part.
Through it all, she never lost her optimism.
Do you ever feel that fate treated you badly?
No, No, when you balance it all out, I've had a pretty fabulous life.
In 2004, President Ronald Reagan died. In one of her final public appearances, the celebration of the centennial of Ronald Reagan's birth, she said,
I know that Ronnie would be thrilled, and is thrilled, to have all of you share in his 100th birthday. Doesn't seem possible, but that's what it is.
Nancy Reagan, a strong woman in her own right, remembered also for her steady, unflinching devotion to her husband, both in and out of the spotlight.
So notice how the mainstream coverage, real nice, real touching. But the problem is it's all based on lies. And this is how the powers that be operate. Selling us lies with a nice, smooth salesman's voice. Remember, Ronald Reagan and Nancy met as actor and actress in Hollywood. Ronald Reagan then became the 33rd governor of California before becoming president. Notice he was elected on the date November 4th, 1980. We saw that at the beginning of the video. In numerology, this is a date with a life lesson number of 33. 33, a very important number to the Freemasons, to the Zionists, and to the history of this nation and the presidency. The first president, George Washington, a 33rd degree Freemason, who has a building built in his honor in Alexandria, Virginia, that's 333 feet tall. So Reagan, from 33rd governor to president, elected on a date with a life lesson number of 33. The word Satanism has gematria of 33. If you look up branches of Satanism in this country, many times their phone number starts with 33, and that is not a coincidence. Here in Seattle, where I live, the closest Satanist church is in Olympia, also beginning with the 33 phone number. So anyhow, Nancy Reagan dies. This was the first image that CNN had up this morning. Nancy loved to wear red. As I routinely talk about, CNN codes their headlines with gematria, the practice of coding numbers into words. Nancy Reagan dies has gematria of 68 and 77, both interesting numbers, and they perfectly sync up with her full name. Nancy Davis Reagan also sums to 68 and 77. With regards to 68, it's a number associated with death. Caskets go 6 feet deep, are often 8 feet long. As for 77, that's an important number to Washington, D.C., and the Oval Office, where she was once First Lady. Washington, D.C. is on the 77th meridian, known as the American Meridian. The Pentagon there is 77 feet tall. On September 11th, it was supposedly Flight 77 that hit the 77-foot tall Pentagon on the 77th meridian. exactly 77 minutes after taking off? Of course, if you're awake and you've researched 9/11 and the wreck at the Pentagon, you realize a plane did not hit the Pentagon. It was either a missile or a bomb. What to take away from that is we live in a nation of lies, and we always have. We, the people, are always lied to, and we have these devils at the top who smile and lie to us all at the same time. People like Ronald Reagan, people like Nancy Reagan. What's sad is so many people in this nation love these people. They worship the devil. They don't have the eyes to see. MSNBC had this headline when the news broke: Nancy Reagan dead at 94, which has gematria of 66. She has passed away on the 66th day of the year. It's a leap year, so March 6th today, the 66th day of the year. Ronald Reagan became governor, or started his political career in 66. What's interesting is the 66th book of the Bible is Revelation. And since my earliest videos, I've been explaining that the powers that be use Revelation as a playbook. If you read Revelation, it's 7 of this, 4 of that, 7 of this, 4 of that. Think about this nation's birthday, 7-4. These are very important numbers to the Masons and the Zionists as well. Revelation in gematria, the 66th book, sums to 49, just like the name Nancy Reagan, who began acting in Hollywood in the year 49. She would be accused of being a communist that year and meet Ronald Reagan that year. Again, she has passed away on March 6th. Ronald Reagan elected president 36 years ago this year. As I've pointed out in other videos, 2016 seems to be the year of 666. The number 36, when you add it up, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, all the way up to 36, 1 through 36 summed totals 666. 2016 has an independent year numerology of 36. 20 plus 16 equals 36. Also interesting about the year, in numerology, 0 doesn't count, so 2016 is a lot like 216. 6 times 6 times 6 equals 216, a backhanded way of getting to 666. So Nancy Reagan dying at this date, in this year, in light of what she stood for, what she was, very fitting. We'll talk more about her death in relation to her husband's in just a little bit. Also, as we pointed out, Nancy Reagan equals 49, dead at 94, the reflection of 49. Notice that Nancy was born July 6th, 1921. What's interesting about that date, July 6th, is that it can be written 6/7 or 7/6. And both the numbers 67 and 76 connect to ritual sacrifice. Ritual sacrifice equals 67 and 76. Also, 2016 marks 67 years since 1949, the year she met Ronald, beginning what became her legacy, First Lady. 67 is the age George Washington died at. George Washington was a 33rd degree Freemason. Freemasonry has gematria of 67. Freemasonry, of course, obsessed with 33. Ronald Reagan, previously the 33rd governor. The other thing I want to point out about Nancy Reagan dying at age 94 is that the name Ronald Wilson Reagan, Ronald's full name, has gematria of 94 as well. So her age of death corresponds with her husband's name gematria. Ronald Reagan, as he went by, has gematria of 56. He died on June 5th, which in most parts of the world is written 5/6, the day before the month. The day Nancy was born, a date with 53 numerology, reminding me of the word religion. These Freemasons, they operate by this numerical code. Freemasonry, in a way, is very much like a religion. The date she was born on, a date with a birth numerology of 26. Ronald Reagan was born on February 6th. 26 is the God number. This is a very special number. She was also born on a date with 34 numerology, corresponding with the word murder. And her death today, I suspect, is truly a murder. As I pointed out many times before, these people ritually sacrifice the young and the old, doing it by numbers, dates of significance. We're building why today is so significant to Nancy Reagan, this year, the Reagan legacy, and more. Today's date, the day she passed on, again, the 66th day of the year, a date with 45 numerology, which reminds me of Holy Bible. Holy Bible has gematria of 45. Revelation, the final book of the Holy Bible. Also the phrase, just say no, which she's best remembered for, which was emphasized very much in the news footage we just watched. Today's date also has 18 numerology, 18 factors to 6 plus 6 plus 6, going along with our 36 coding. It's a date with 25 numerology. 25, when written out as a word, has gematria matching Skull of Bones. Skull and Bones, the Masonic order that is responsible for all sorts of wrongdoing in this world. Oftentimes these suspicious political deaths code out to the Skull of Bones, numbers of significance. Sometimes it could be a coincidence. I just like to document for research sake. For all of you who pay attention to this work, document, do the research yourselves. Also interesting about today's date, 3/6/2016, in numerology, you break down numbers to single digits. 3 and 6 are already single digits. 2016 becomes 2 plus 0 plus 1 plus 6, summing to 9. So 369, today's date numerology, these are the numbers of great significance. Nikola Tesla has the quote about unlocking 369 as the key to the universe. From the date she died on to the date that would have been her 95th birthday is a span of 122 days. This is another number, a signature by the Freemasons, a number connected to God. Elohim has gematria of 122. So does Freemason in the Francis Bacon method. We're going to talk more about this number in regards to her and Ronald Reagan in just a moment. Her death follows Ronald Reagan's by 11 years, 9 months, and 1 day. That 11-9 I do not think is any coincidence. Remember, all-seeing eye equals 119. Star of David equals 119. Ronald Reagan died on the 156th day of the year. The number 911 is the 156th prime number. So an interesting sync between her husband's death and hers. As for dying on a Sunday, this connects to her husband, the 40th president, as well as the United States of America. Sunday, the only day of the week with gematria of 84. The word 40, when written out, has gematria of 84. Her husband was re-elected as the 40th president in the year 1984. United States of America also has gematria of 84. Please also notice the gematria of 93 and 102. Ronald Reagan passed away at 93. When he was running for president, he had banners, bumper stickers, and advertisements referring to the United States as "This is Reagan Country," which has gematria of 93, corresponding with United States of America, again corresponding with his age of death. And the powers that be, they worship Saturn, the entity that controls time. Saturn is also referenced as Satan. Other interesting words with 93 gematria include propaganda. Ronald Reagan, a master of propaganda, entering his first day on office, ending the 444-day Iranian hostage crisis, which was a hoax. He immediately came in as a hero. Masonic in English gematria equals 444. Jimmy Carter oversaw that, who's from Georgia, the fourth state, one of only 2 states with a gematria of 44. Fourth state, 44 gematria, 444-day Iranian hostage crisis. This country's always operated by the numbers, from news to elections to deaths to even sports. It cover all of this in depth on my video channel in undeniable presentation format. I understand how someone new could come here and watch this and dismiss it. I don't understand how anyone could watch 5 of my videos and decide this is all coincidence. I had to study this for a year before I presented it to anyone. Studying in that year proved to me that what was going on was well beyond coincidence. That's why I share this information with the public. They say her body will be buried at Ronald Reagan Presidential Library in Simi Valley. Isn't it funny how presidents have libraries named after them? I mean, even George W. Bush, who's probably never read a book in his life, has a library named after him. In the end, I'll tell you what's up with Simi Valley in regards to Reagan, but I want to show you what's interesting about Ronald Reagan Presidential Library. The headline from Fox News has this gematria of 327, just like the gematria of the library. This number 327 is actually a number that I see coded a lot but never talk about because I personally don't know what the significance of it is. It breaks down to 12 and 3 in numerology. I do see it coded a lot. I find it interesting that it's coded into the library as well as the news headline about her death. Ronald Reagan Presidential Library in Pythagorean Gematria sums to 156, which I find especially interesting, seeing as how Reagan died on the 156th day of the year, June 5th, corresponding with his name, Ronald Reagan. I should mention that the word president also equals 56, like Ronald Reagan. But earlier last year, I did a video on how Michael Jackson died at Ronald Reagan Hospital at UCLA Medical Center, and he died 156 days after Obama was elected president, or after Obama became president. That number 156 again. 911, the 156th prime. I'll link this blog post in the description. These links go to the articles about Michael Jackson's death. You can also watch the video I put out on it. And also I have another video on more significant Ronald Reagan numbers, because there's even more to his story by the numbers. This paragraph on CNN emphasizes Nancy Reagan's role in the drug war, a needless war that has enslaved millions of people in cages behind bars, a barbaric practice of this satanic nation. For those of you who think drugs are evil, you have been brainwashed, you have been deceived, you have been programmed, you have been made to believe things that are not true. The reason this nation is opposed to drugs is because drugs such as marijuana and hallucinogenic drugs such as acid, magic mushrooms, when these drugs are used responsibly, they have the power to awaken and help your mind connect dots that your mind has never been able to before. Drugs have the power to enhance thought. The powers that be do not want this. They work very hard to control our minds and our mind's eye with chemicals from birth, from vaccines to what's in the food, to what they spray in the sky, and more. They also program us heavily with their mandatory socialization of an education system. Also with their constant TV propaganda, radio propaganda, magazine and paper propaganda. They want to control what's in our minds. They don't want us ourselves to control. They say this is the land of the free and the brave, but we have relatively little freedom. They give us alcohol, which is mostly very negative, which has very little power in terms of stimulating the thought to awaken. I don't want to dismiss alcohol completely, though. I know plenty of writers who benefit from drinking. I myself, sometimes, if I have a little buzz, I can write a little more fluently. But alcohol does not have the great mental awakening power that things such as marijuana, magic mushrooms, acid do. And for all of you who are so scared of those things, I'm sorry, you've been lied to, and you've missed out on something that could have been very beneficial. I recommend everyone, once they're done with this video, to search for my video, or you can just find it alone on YouTube. There is a if you can believe it, it's from CNN. They have a research piece on the benefits of magic mushrooms, and it might be the only time the truth was ever told on the news. They talk about how magic mushrooms have the power to heal lifelong problems that people have suffered from instantly. And I know this to be true from personal experience, and I know many people that I've introduced magic mushrooms to who are forever grateful and who will ever be benefited from those experiences. So, Nancy Reagan, Ronald Reagan, their message of drugs are bad, you should be incarcerated. This is the message of Satan, and don't get it twisted. Notice that America has gematria 50, 50 states. So does the word drug. And notice I'm not advocating for all drugs. I don't advocate for pharmaceutical drugs. Those have the ability to enslave your mind as well. Antidepressants, those put people in a cage as well. There's all sorts of harmful drugs. I'm not advocating for heroin. I'm not advocating for crack. Not all drugs are the same. Important point. War on drugs and Pythagorean gematria also sums to 50. And this is the most harmful war in the history of the nation, a nation that is a war empire. The war on drugs has done more harm to this country than all the other wars combined. All the lives wasted behind bars, all the taxpayers paying for this, all the expenditures on government to fight drugs, which has brought needless bloodshed and all sorts of wrongdoing. Fighting drugs only creates more violence, more wrongdoing, more crime. And all sorts of people in our own government have spoken out about this for decades. The right thing still has not been done. The only thing I can say positive about the Barack Obama presidency is that he reduced crack sentencing, but not by enough. But hey, it was a step in the right direction. Anyhow, Nancy's phrase, just say no, gematria of 27 and 45. Again, she has died today, a date with 45 numerology. Just say no also has gematria of 144, which I find really interesting. That's a number that often has to do with killing, and in a way, it is. It's the killing of an opportunity that all people should be allowed to have. If we taught teenagers how to use drugs responsibly, could be a lot better world, a lot safer world. Think about what happens in this country. We tell kids, teenagers, no, 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 bad, 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 don't do it. And then what do? The first opportunity they get away, so often they go and they use drugs irresponsibly because they have no experience. No one's ever told them anything besides no. I know all sorts of people who have passed away from car wrecks, all sorts of drug-related deaths. And it's all a product of the way things go in this nation. Kid I grew up and played athletics with has been paralyzed since he's been 19 years old from the neck down. Night from binge drinking and a few other things. This is what the practices of this nation breed. We should talk about things honestly instead of propagandize people, lie people, make them afraid of things they don't need to be afraid of. Moving on. A marriage made in Hollywood. This paragraph talks about how Nancy has the New York and Chicago's connections. Those are the cities that the synagogue of Satan operate out of. The Masons and Zionists, their meccas are New York and Chicago in this country. It's undeniable. Right now, the mayor of Chicago is Ram Israel Emanuel, who's born on the date Israel, the Zionist nation, was recognized. Ram Emanuel equals 666 in gematria. No coincidence. These people embrace these numbers. These people embrace Satan. These people love being selfish, satanic psychopaths. That subheadline, A Marriage Made in Hollywood, has gematria of 122. Again, the number connected to Freemason, Elohim. Nancy died 122 days before her birthday. Says she was born Anne Frances Robbins. Notice that birth name with gematria of 80. Ronald Reagan elected in 80. Could be a coincidence. Her birth name Robbins has gematria of 34 and 79. Numbers of murder. Her middle name Frances, gematria of 66. She's passed away on the 66th day. When she went to Hollywood, she changed her name to Nancy Davis, and I guarantee you the Zionist Jews gave her this name. Her acting career started in 1949. Remember, Nancy Reagan equaled 49. So did her actor name, Nancy Davis. Nancy Davis equaled 40 and 49. She would meet Ronald Reagan in 49, the year her actress career began. She would end up being married to the 40th president. Nancy has that gematria of 57. We'll talk about that number in just a moment. She worked for MGM, the studio with the 33 gematria. Whole lot of 33 in Hollywood and studio names. It's not just MGM. Her and Ronald would be married March 4th, 1952. Their marriage would last 52 years. Ronald Reagan would die 52 years later in 2004. They starred together in this film, Hellcats of the Navy. This was Nancy Reagan's last movie. Hellcats of the Navy has that gematria of 79. What stands out most about the film, though, is that it came out in the year 57, and also that it was an hour and 22 minutes long, a lot like 122. With regards to 57, it connects to the name Nancy. Also, in terms of presidents, remember, 4 of the first 6 presidents were inaugurated at the age of 57. I have a theory on why that might be. Couple theories, actually. This nation has always been a warmongering nation. The word army has gematria 57. The first president was the leader of the army. Also, 57 is an important number to the Jewish faith, and this nation was financed and created by Jews from the beginning. The Jews say the moon represents them as a people because the moon vanishes only to return full, just as how throughout history the Jewish people have supposedly nearly been eradicated from the earth many times only to come back full. What's interesting about the moon is moon has a gematria of 57. And every 57 years, the moon does a complete reset in the night sky, meaning it appears in the exact same place that it was exactly 57 years earlier. Moon, gematria 57. There's a reason that so many presidents inaugurated at that age. The day they were married on, March 4th, was the 64th day of the year. Zion, Israel both equal 64. Notice the name Ronald also equals 64. Ronald Reagan married on this day. The name Reagan equals 46, 64, 46. Put it together, it sums to 110, just like the word president. Ronald Reagan treated as a hero. The word hero has gematria of 46. 80s equals 46. He was the president for the majority of the 80s. The word sacrifice also has gematria of 46. It appears he was a sacrifice in the end, as was his wife. It's also funny that they have this person, Tate, commenting throughout this CNN article. The name Tate has gematria of 46, just like Reagan. CNN loves to do this in their reporting, as does the rest of the mainstream media. So anyhow, Nancy's going to be buried next to her husband at Simi Valley in California, where he was once the governor, where they were both once actors. Notice the coordinates. 34th parallel north, 118th meridian west. Both of these numbers have to do with death and murder. Death in Jewish gematria equals 118. In the Jewish format, it's different. T's worth 100. Added up, death equals 118. Murder in Pythagorean gematria equals 34. And of course, these two were married in history on March 4th. 64 years ago, married on the 64th day. Her death comes 2 days after her wedding anniversary date. Simi Valley also has gematria of 46 and 55, matching the word sacrifice, matching the name Reagan. Both the Reagans will be married or buried in Simi Valley. You know, when you think of red, you often think of the devil. And Nancy Reagan, often in red. Almost all the imagery out of her, she's in red. This subheadline, former First Lady dead at 94, was fierce protector of husband, has gematria of 227, the number having to do with cycles and circles, reminding of her husband's fake assassination attempt. Notice he was supposedly nearly shot at 2:27 in the afternoon. Another way to say this is 33 minutes till 3. On the date March 30th, 1981. This was a hoax put on by an actor. The presidents of this country are almost always actor agents. Notice the date that this happened on. A date with 133 numerology. White House equals 133. Government equals 133. This happened 2 months after he ended up in the White House. It happened at the Hilton Hotel. Hilton has gematria of 33. 30 minutes till 3 is the previous 33rd governor of California. This number also has to do with prior assassinations. Lincoln died at 7:22 in the morning. If you watch the video of JFK's assassination, the car in front of his has the license plate 227, and then I can't remember the letter sequence, but those numbers are there, 227. The commission that investigated Kennedy's death has gematria of 722. JFK, the last president to be assassinated in office, Abraham Lincoln, the first. No coincidence. This is history by the numbers. The reason I've been able to decode these people and say what the numbers mean is because of how often they use the same numbers in the same related events. When you divide 22 by 7, it gives you the number for pi. You know, pi r squared, the formula, circles, cycles. So this is it, Truth Seeker. For all of you who think Ronald Reagan is a great president, it's time to pull your head out of your you-know-what. It's time to wake up and recognize what kind of nation you live in. You know, it always amazes me how many Christians fall for all these gimmicks. You know, this nation, it runs on materialism, wealth, wrongdoing, division, hatred. And all the Christians seem to go right along with it. Loving people like Ronald Reagan, satanic actor agent sellouts, so transparent. Open your eyes, people. And please, share these videos. Don't worry if your friends make fun of you. That doesn't matter. Your job as someone who's awake is to spread knowledge and truth, no matter how much ridicule you receive. If you want a better world, this is the cost of getting there. After so much evidence, the people, the naysayers, the people who mock truth, they'll recognize they've been wrong, especially when more people start speaking out on the regular. All right, Truth Seeker, until next time.